So, also, we didn't mention it in the beginning of this episode, but it's still really hot in Chicago, and I've got fans and air conditioners going on. So if you hear a vroom in the background, that's what that is. We're still dying here. Thank you very much.
If you wanna be official about that, you can just cut it and add it to the beginning of the episode.
I might. Okay, so
Magic.
It's called smut. Give me smut and nothing but a dirty novel I can't shut if it's uncut and unsought.
That if you know the story or the thing about which queen would you want to be with? Every English person,
like of Henry VIII's wife.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Where everyone's like, oh, who would you choose? It's just like
to be or to be with.
To be with.
Oh,
that's a normal drinking question.
I feel like I've never heard this question.
Really?
Before.
I feel like that was every single time I went drinking. Well, I was a theater kid.
That's different. Yeah.
I'm not afraid to admit that I would fully fall for Anne Boleyn. It would be problematic and weird, but we would have a good couple of months.
I kind of want to go Catherine of Aragon just because she's so loyal.
I was gonna say Catherine because you would have a quiet life.
Anne of Cleves makes me sad. So,
and that's
she's
why.
chosen.
That's why.
Yeah. Wait, the one who got divorced, right?
Yeah.
Divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded. Yeah. She fucking rocks. She got like
Anne
the
of
best
Cleves,
life.
Yeah. Wait, no. She
got divorced because she was
Anne of Cleves.
No.
Right?
I thought it was.
All right, we're just gonna have to look this up.
We gotta look it up. Anne of Cleves was also German.
No. Jane Seymour was the
one.
the only one he truly loved.
Rude.
Yeah. Okay, that's who I couldn't remember. Anne of Cleves was the German who got divorced because she was ugly.
Yes.
Then Catherine Howard, who was the Britney Spears slutty girl in the thing.
Yep.
And
She's
then,
also sad. I would also bang her.
Yeah, and then Catherine Parr was the one who survived.
Yes.
But okay, I would go either Catherine of Aragon because she's loyal.
She's loyal.
Or she's loyal babe, and that's a Love Island reference for anyone who knows it. Or Anne of Cleves because she seemed to have a really great life.
Anne of Cleves really got out without using any weird terms, but she got off scot-free. Kind of like with that, she's like, he saw her and was like, nah.
Yeah.
And he's like,
we can still be friends. That's kind of what it, I mean, I don't know. Again, the musical
Tag,
6,
baby.
The musical 6 takes some liberties,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it seems like afterwards they were like, well, guess we can still hang and be loyal and civil and whatever. So
the other Boleyn girl
hear
came out at a weird time
yeah.
where I was like a little bit too young to read it, I think. And I remember reading it and going up to my mom and being like, this is how they treated women? She's like,
where did you get this book?
I read that book. I read that book in like a night. I flew through that book.
Yeah.
It got me in my because I've talked about this. I had a period in my life where I read every single Elizabeth I biography and every single Marie Antoinette biography that was accessible to me in my tiny little hometown library.
Nice.
And then because I had the Princess Diaries, Royal Diaries books that I was obsessed with. And it all just fed into itself. And then the other Boleyn girl came out, and I was like, well, I gotta read that.
the Scholastic Book Fair.
Oh my God.
I missed the Scholastic Book Fair. Speaking of books, I'm Emily.
I'm Jess.
And this is Femmes Reading Filth. Oh, that was pretty.
Every time.
Yeah.
I go low, you go high, it works out.
I know. I love it. And
I'm going to go high next time just to fuck with you.
I'm gonna forget, and then I'm gonna change midway, and I'm gonna go Femmes Reading Filth.
Right.
I'm gonna do that.
And we're here with our lovely season 4 guest, Andrea.
This is your first episode. Are you excited?
I'm so excited.
Are you gassy? Are you happy? Are you
all of the above?
Then you're in good
really
company.
excited.
This is our first episode. It's fairy tale retellings.
Yes.
And I'm very excited.
Yeah.
And this was a good one.
And this is a trope that you hate.
I do. I didn't tell you guys that though. Like I was trying not to tell you guys how much I hate it, but I did get a chance to say afterwards why I hate it, which is no one has ever given me one that changed my mind.
Okay. So when I was younger, and I went through, I famously read my mother's Dark Hunter romantasy books, and then I kind of took a break because I was in college or whatever.
Right.
And then I went straight on to Harlequin, and I would only get the free Harlequin books like from Kindle or like the library or whatever.
Yeah.
And they were all short stories, and I was like, what other short sex stories can I read that they'll be so fast that I can immediately give it back? Because I was still in the like, I shouldn't be
I don't
reading
want
this.
anyone to know about this. Yeah.
And I found like not a series, but there was like 2 or 3 books, and it was like Dirty Tales for Dirty Ladies or something, and it was a bunch of fairy tale smut retellings of the actual fairy tales, but they were all like 2 or 3 pages long. So it'd be like Beauty and the Beast, but he's still a beast, and they had sex, and he's an animal.
Your
so
internet
it's like,
history must have been amazing.
I am on so many watch lists. Especially after writing the book. Oh my god!
I mean, we both are.
Famously wrote what does chloroform smell like 3 times. And so that's where my mind went when you first said this, because I was like, well, I can't just synopsize a full book of every fairy tale, but with sex in it.
Yeah.
And they were fucking dirty. They
mine,
were like,
mine went
bad.
to the Wicked Villain series
Yes.
by Katie Roberts.
Ooh,
One
yeah.
of my favorites. One of my absolute favorites.
Which I didn't pick because I thought you might have read them, and I was like, it's too easy. I won't go for it.
They're all downloaded on my
There you
Hoopla.
go.
They're so good, and they're not necessarily like fairy tale retellings, but
They're Disney retellings.
they're Disney retellings, and they borrow heavily enough that I would count them as a version of that. Like, but I love when they can take when an author kind of builds their own world out of already established media and characters and things. I love that.
Oh, it's like so like fan fiction.
Like fan fiction. Yeah. Well, and I also in particular love, and this isn't at all what my story that I picked today is, but I do love the like, this is from the villain's perspective, and actually they were right the whole time.
That's a fun one too. That's
Like,
fun.
I've read some very specific Aladdin fan fiction, which is hilarious because it's all Jafar just being like, I could do this so much better. I'm so much smarter than, it's all his like POV.
Yeah.
It's him being like, I'm so much smarter than the Sultan. I just think that we could just do some very specific and like infrastructural improvements and things would be better, but I have to deal with this asshole.
The street rat.
The street rat, and also the little bumbling Sultan guy.
Prince Abubu.
Yeah,
Prince
yeah.
Abubu.
It makes me so happy. I love a frustrated villain. All right, so I did very basic research, but I did have a moment, and the reason that I did any research at all, because I usually don't, because I was like, I know what fairy tales are, and then I started trying to find a story, and suddenly doubted that I knew what fairy tales
And
were.
this is what I was gonna say. I texted you being like, "What is a fairy tale?" Because I found stuff that was like Hunchback of Notre Dame retellings, but I'm like, that's not a fairy tale. That's a Disney movie, but it's a piece of classical literature.
Yep.
So I was like, we have to like, is Alice in Wonderland? No, or ish. Like that's a piece of classical literature. Like we had to kind of delegate what was and wasn't.
Yeah.
In the sense.
And what I found is the lines are very blurry, which made me go, great, what I picked is fine.
Amazing. Love it.
But genuinely, because fairy tales can come from so many cultures and come from different cultural traditions, there's not really this has to be present for it to be a fairy tale. It's more like the way that it's told. So fairy tales are stories that range from folklore to more modern stories, defined as literary fairy tales if they're more modern.
Okay.
And they can be folklore, they can be fables, they can be myths and legends. But the main thing is whether it comes from an oral tradition or it has been written down.
Oh, okay.
So what makes it a fairy tale and not a folk tale is that it has been written by a single identifiable author.
Okay.
It's not just a story that people have passed down through generations. Like you can go, the Brothers Grimm wrote that.
It's not a myth that was told by a traveling bard. If
Exactly.
you will.
And it could have been, but now it's been written down, and that is what makes it considered a fairy tale.
That's good to know. That's good to have.
Yeah, and they're also defined as simple and exist in they do exist in a, like as with a close relationship to oral tradition, but that's not where they come from. And then they usually feature magic, enchantments, mythical beings, or some kind of fantastical element, but they don't necessarily need to. And they basically have been used, based on what I've found, fairy tales have been used for centuries as a useful, simple framework that you can then stretch a story over, essentially. And that is why they have continued on over and over again, because they are this identifiable, like a trope, this identifiable structure that you can then kind of build off, like fan fiction, like what we talk about all the time.
Okay.
And there are so many reimaginings, so many different types of things that have been released. Cleese Press came up when I was doing it. Apparently, they have released many fairy tale themed erotic anthologies.
Maybe this is what I read.
Maybe.
Oh my gosh.
Though they were called Fairy Tale Lust, Lustfully Ever After, and A Princess Bound were the ones that I found. But I guess it was Cleese Press, I guess, does a lot of fairy tales.
You're doing God's work, Cleese Press. You're doing God's work.
They're doing great. And then I wrote down the Wiccan Village series because I consider that a fairy tale retelling, and I love it very much.
I agree. I think it's because it's good to denote that it was something written down, because like technically mythology retellings could have been grouped into this, but like in my head I'm like, that's a completely separate thing.
And with with an identifiable author.
Yes.
Like you have to, for it to be a fairy tale, you have to be able to, at the very least, even if it's like Aesop's Fables, that's very, like, you can point to it and go, I know who wrote that. And that's what makes it a fairy tale instead of a piece of folklore.
Aesop.
It was in, there was some, was it like the Sandman? I think it was Sandman, the show where Aesop.
The Neil Gaiman?
The Neil Gaiman one. Yeah. And I remember they said his name on the show, and I went, well, I've been pronouncing that wrong for my entire life.
It's AESOP, and technically
I've been saying Aesop my whole life, but I think it is Aesop.
I think it's Aesop, but it comes from like ancient Greek times. He's like a Greek gay. One of those Greek gays.
One of them Greek guys.
I love a Greek gay.
What do you think of when you think of fairy tales, Andrea?
Well, I grew up with Hans Christian Andersen,
right.
And I'm a believer.
You knew him personally?
Personally, no. My dad read to me, actually.
Cute.
And so he would read to me fairy tales from like this big book.
Yeah.
And I was always kind of like a little panicked at the end of them, because I'm like, Dad, none of these are ending. He doesn't go home to his home planet like in The Little Prince. Yeah. Like, this is not ending the way, any book that my mom.
Sad.
Yeah, these. Why does she turn into sea foam? At the end of The Little Mermaid.
Yep.
What do you mean that what happened?
You should have read the Disney versions. He should have read them.
He loved Disney, man. He really did. He was a big believer that like we all should sit down as a family and sit for a whole 90 minutes to watch anything together.
Oh yeah.
But like, it made me realize, I'm like, none of these are ending happily. And he goes, don't worry, honey. None of them do in real life. And I was just like,
damn.
Wow, Dad, do you mean in real life? He goes, I didn't mean it that, you know what, take it as you will.
What a lesson.
Yeah, what a lesson from my dad. But like, all because my mom couldn't make it through a full chapter in a book.
Is she just like a really slow reader?
No, she just couldn't keep her eyes open. But she's always been now she reads on the treadmill and she can get through like half a book in a day.
Yeah.
Like, I love that for her so much.
Yeah, because she's just going.
Yeah, she's moving.
Yeah.
So it means that she can't stop, and this is how because reading was always her passion, and then it became mine. And then I discovered that like she had a total point about being on the treadmill and like reading her book.
Yeah. I love doing, when I was a member of a gym, I would do the bike and just read for an hour and just pedal away, and it was great. I would get distracted and then look up and realize that I had pedaled like 8 miles and didn't even realize it because I was just reading.
Yeah, well, this is how I get through like 4 audiobooks in a week.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, I don't like the sound of my own thoughts. Let's get those right on out of there.
Bye.
I wish I could do audiobooks. Maybe not this year, this next calendar year. I will try again, because I could just never like, it doesn't hit the same way for me.
It's all in the narrator is what I found.
Yeah, I gotta find a good narrator.
Yeah, I found people that I like I like their narration, and so I usually like their books. Whereas I've downloaded Audible books that I'm really excited about, and then just something about the person reading it or the way that they talk, I can't get through it.
And that's okay. Also, I think there's like pacing, and there's a big controversy about how quickly you should speed up your books or not. I have massive ADHD, so my favorite thing in the whole wide world is to use my big headphones to play music and then put my AirPod in and have the book going so I can also have music.
Oh, wow.
And I will do that and then just be working.
I've never even thought of that. That's crazy.
I love that.
I want you to know, this is like the most Adderall thought out plan. I've got so much work to do. I have to hyperfixate for the next hour and get 6 hours of work done in this 1 hour. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to put my book at 1.56 speed, and then I'm gonna also put Sabrina Carpenter in my ear, or better yet, Steven Universe lo-fi, and just zip.
Yeah.
Should I go first with my?
Yeah. Do you want to?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. Let's have you go first.
All right.
Cool.
Okay, so we are today reading. Well, I'm telling you about.
We're all reading it together.
We're all reading it together. At the Stroke of Midnight by Bunilicious. This author has 14 fics published. 12 of them, including this one, are historical AUs.
Oh.
Good for them.
Oh, yeah. All of them are new Star Wars. So Ben Solo / Kylo Ren and Rey.
I was
Don't
thinking,
worry, I know all of this already.
when you said historical, my mind immediately went, oh, she's doing an Ever After fan fiction.
No, ma'am. I am doing a Star Wars historical AU.
What the fuck?
That is also based on Cinderella and a little bit Rapunzel.
Wow, you heard everything I said in the last episode and went, I have this.
Wow.
I know what I'm doing.
You're going to be so disappointed in mine, Andrew. Okay.
Have you read any Star Wars fanfic?
I have. After you did that episode, I did try. Again,
The Amish episode?
Yes. Actually, your number one episode, I think.
Yeah,
or
one
something
of them.
like that.
Actually, right now it has cuckolding.
Cuckolding is one?
Fucking weirdos out there. I love you all. It's cuckolding. I believe then it's Amish. Then it's the Emily Rome
I love that
episode.
Great. I love that cuckolding and Amish are the top.
I love that. I love our fans. I love you all. Thank you so much.
What did you think? Okay, so you tried.
So I tried.
Yeah.
I honestly, I still find I find any fan fiction that doesn't immediately put it in the Star Wars universe more enjoyable. Mm-hmm. But I just have never been able to get into the Star Wars fiction period.
Okay.
And I tried really hard.
Question: have you read Ellie Hazelwood's The Love Hypothesis?
Yes, I have.
Did you like it?
Ooh, what a question.
Yeah. Well, because
it's based on Star Wars fanfiction.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. You know what? I found certain aspects of it enjoyable. Did I want to purchase the book? No. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I think I've got to reiterate that since
Totally
I
fair.
don't like things unless I love a book, I'm not buying it.
Yeah.
I'm using my library. I'm using my app.
Yeah.
I'm using any resource I can, and I think that we should of course support
Yes.
anyone we can. So don't go out there and find things online that aren't through your library, because those people still get commission
but
for
when
it.
you're still when you're reading 3 or 4 terrible smut books in 2 weeks, the Kindle Unlimited subscription is also very helpful too.
Exactly.
So I love that. But yeah, I do try to go more library.
Yeah.
More.
And I mean this fic is really has almost nothing to do with Star Wars.
I love it already.
Yes.
The main thing that you need to do, which is what I've done a couple of times, I think, I keep coming back to Star Wars for AUs because most of the AUs are basically you're supposed to picture Adam Driver and you're supposed to picture
Daisy
Ridley, but that's kind of where the relation to Star Wars ends, basically.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
Do people choose do you think that people choose their fandom because they find these actors or the people who have portrayed them attractive?
Yes.
That's what I was trying to figure out with the Love Hypothesis for the entire read. I was like, is Adam Driver supposed to be this person's hottie?
Yes.
Okay.
So many. And that's one of my favorite things to watch the evolution of a fandom. That's what happened with Saltburn. was people flocked to writing Saltburn fanfiction because they thought that Jacob Elordi and Barry Keoghan were hot. And then I've read fanfiction where people are like, I haven't actually watched the movie yet, but from the trailer, these two men are very hot, so I'm going to write them fucking each other. So just, like, that's what we're doing. And then I'll watch the movie later. And, like, I'm fine, sure, whatever you want to do. But yeah, that is for sure. And especially, like, these, where it has absolutely nothing to do with Star Wars. The whole point is just that these people, they find them attractive.
I found these two people attractive.
Yep.
I'm going to play with them in my imagination
Correct.
dome, and then I'm going to put it on the internets for you all.
Exactly.
Okay,
That's
right.
what we're
Theo
doing.
Knott right there.
Yeah. And this fic was written as for a fic exchange, which I always love doing these. Mm-hmm. So it was an anniversary fic exchange. And the author's note is, "This is for the lovely Midnight Blue Fox. I was so happy to find out that I'd be writing a fic for you, and I hope you enjoy what came out. Thank you so much for being an incredible friend. This is the first chapter, but there will be more to come." So this was a gift on the anniversary from this author to their friend.
What a beautiful community AO3 is.
Yeah. Is this a one-shot?
This is a 4-chapter fic. I think it was originally supposed to be a one-shot, and then it just got away from them a little bit. So it is, for this fic exchange, they got prompts. And so the prompt that she got was Victorian historical romance, can have a forbidden love aspect, can have steampunk elements if you'd like, really up to the author, but I love pretty costumes and smut. So that's what we're reading today. And so let's just get right into it. So this is all from Ray's POV, and it opens with her thinking about how much she likes to watch her neighbor pick flowers in his garden. So picture Victorian AU, like we're in townhouses in London, like a little bit, they're in the back of an imposing townhouse in Mayfair. And Ray is a scullery maid living next door to Ben. And she is in her attic in the window overlooking his garden, watching him as she has done for years at this point, years of her life.
Very Penelope Featherington of her,
Yes.
Yeah. I was like, okay, Bridgerton, got it.
Yeah. The quote is, "Each year she awaited the arrival of spring, the time of the year when the Duke would set foot in London to attend the season and to be the honored guest of many balls and soirees alongside his ailing mother. Every year, every morning, she watches him walk around the garden. He picks a flower for his mother, brings it to her, and she's always sitting on the stone bench." And so Ray has just watched these two forever. And today, through the open window, she can hear that they're talking about his responsibility to marry well, and how up until this point he has refused to marry anyone that his mother has picked for him. And he wants to choose for himself. Isn't that wild?
What a crazy idea.
Absolutely crazy. And Ray is thinking that she has overheard this conversation many times and is just like, well, he's going to say no to his mom. He always does. But this time he concedes and says, you know what? I think you're right. I think you're getting older. I need to find someone that can help me run the household. And Ray is immediately like, he's gonna get married. He's gonna find someone else. Oh my God. And so what they do is they decide to throw a masquerade ball and make the intention to find his bride clear at the masquerade ball. And Ray just knows that it could never be her because she's a poor scullery maid. And this is the life that she could have had.
Classic.
Yes. And she turns from the window. Her uncle is yelling at her because she needs to like sweep the hearth or something. And we learn that this townhouse had once been her home.
Oh.
But then when both of her parents tragically passed away due to an unnamed illness, the house went to her uncle instead of her. And her aunt and uncle and her cousins hate her because she used to live in this house, and she's a reminder that they got it not from their own merit, but because they suck. And they basically made her their servant, a la Cinderella. And so now she is the one that gets yelled at and told to clean. And her uncle yells at her in this instance and is like, if you upset my wife again by not cleaning properly, I'm not going to feed you dinner.
Ugh, like, what a shitbag.
Is the uncle a character from Star
Wars? Yes, he is Plut which is her, like, the guy in the first movie when she's in the desert that she's selling her stuff to, like the junkyard guy.
Immediately imagined him as the uncle.
That is the uncle. We don't ever meet her aunt or her cousins or anything, but we do meet him. So they're
in Bath for the summer.
They're in Bath. They're taking
season, the waters
for the season, you know. And so he makes this threat. She's like, whatever, I'm gonna go do my job. But they all hate her. They treat her badly, and her only bright spot in the day is spying on Ben from her attic window.
Creepy motherfucker.
But romantic.
But it's also right next door.
Right next door.
So he's never looked up.
They've never interacted.
He doesn't sound very smart to me.
According to her, in her POV, she's been quiet as a mouse.
Okay.
She's been hidden.
With the whole time, he's actually been like, that creepy girl's looking at me again. And she's pawing at the... Hi. Okay, sorry, go on.
The day of the ball comes, and she's being sneaky, she thinks, and looking down at the garden. And she hears Ben say, well, hello there, from directly under the window.
Oh my God, I called it.
And he's looking up at her from her little Rapunzel tower. And she introduces herself and says, you know, I'm Ray. I'm a maid here. I'm so sorry for spying on you. And he just laughs and says, I've seen you. You're looking at me all the time.
I called it. Oh, okay.
Well, this isn't the brooding gentleman that we met in the first movie.
Could it be?
Hello, Ray.
So tall.
This is my good Kylo Ren impression. I've seen you looking at me, Ray.
I've seen you, Ray.
I know it's amazing.
Hello there.
Deeper. You need to be deeper.
Hello there.
My name is Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren. And so...
Why, hello there.
Why, hello.
Yours is better, Justin.
So hot.
Kylo Ren.
My name is Kylo Ren, and I'm very attractive.
This is the point of the podcast where people turn it up. They're like, all right, they're just doing fucking Kylo Ren.
Fucking bits. So she, like, does the thing where she's, like, heartbroken, but she's like, I hear that you're throwing a ball tonight to meet your wife. I'm so excited for you. That sounds really exciting.
Very demure.
Very mindful.
Very mindful.
Yeah, and she can't bring herself to say it with enthusiasm, but then he also is not very enthusiastic, and he's like, well, it's something that I have to do. Mm-hmm. And her heart, she's like, oh, about that. But she's like, well, that's a very strange thing to say. And he's like, well, why? And she goes, well, you seem like kind of a romantic. She says, I've been watching you long enough to think that you're a romantic, because you pick flowers every morning and give them to your mother. Like, you clearly have a soft spot. And she says, you know, I just, as someone who's watched you for a long time, I think you just deserve to be happy. And you should remember that if someone catches your eye tonight, it's not because anyone else made the choice for you. It's because you saw something in each other. And he says, well, that'll be a challenge, because there's nothing appealing about me except for my title and my fortune. And she's like, well, you're wrong. You're wonderful. And he goes, okay. And then she hears her uncle calling. And so she
wait, they've been having this whole conversation. How many stories up
she's
is
in the
this?
attic. It doesn't say, but she's in the attic of a townhouse. So I'm assuming
like
three or four for sure. Like yelling down.
Her uncle must have heard this whole conversation.
Yes.
But you're really nice. Okay.
Okay, so she hears her uncle calling. She goes, oh my God, I have to go. She shuts the window. But in her head, she resolves that Ben must know how attractive he is, and she's going to fix it. And so she decides that she's going to sneak into the ball that night to make Ben feel special, ? I don't think it's a great plan, but that's what she decides to do. So she goes in her basement and she digs out one of her mother's old gowns, which is this beautiful light blue dress with these big hoop skirts and these giant poofy sleeves, and
it's like 40 years out of
style,
fashion.
way too big, but it's what she has, and we appreciate
that.
it.
She goes, just breathe.
Yep.
Gotta rewatch that movie.
And she puts on her grandmother's shoes as well, which are slightly too big, but they'll do. And when she arrives at the ball, she can't find Ben. And she's like, I bet he doesn't want to be in this crowd. And I'm going to check the terrace. And she does, and he's there. And she starts to walk towards him, but then the shoes are too big. And so she trips.
Clumsy Claude.
Clumsy. And he catches her because he's so big and strong. And
love that.
It's a masquerade, so he doesn't know who it. She's got a thing on,
and he's so big, and she's so small.
She's so small. She's
small girl.
And so they start to just chat, and they start to walk around the garden, and he picks her a flower and puts it behind her ear, and he asks her name, and she won't tell him. And the ball, because the rules of the masquerade ball is that you have to keep things secret until midnight, and then everyone's going to take their masks off.
Oh, I love that.
Reveal each other.
He's not going to be able to tell it's her if she's not shouting from 4 stories above.
Imagine you with dirt on my face and
right,
going like this.
Hi.
Does this ring a bell?
Scullery man.
Does this ring a bell? I think you're romantic.
And so she says, I can't tell you. And she's also says, I'm not really one for dancing. And he goes, me neither. And she goes, I actually don't really know how to dance. I was never taught how. And he's like, well, do you want me to teach you?
Aww.
And so they start dancing on the terrace. And she says, you'll never see me again after this. So we may as well, enjoy our final moments together. And he's like, what do you mean? And they're still dancing. And he's like, she goes, I'm not here to marry you. I think I may be the only unmarried woman here to say that. I just wanted to spend some time with you and enjoy the night. And he's super, super surprised by that because obviously he is. That's not what this ball is for. And he says the same thing. He's like, well, why? What, don't you want to marry me for my title and my money? I have a lot of it. And she's like, well, there's more to you than that. And then their eyes meet, and they keep staring at each other with both of his hands around her waist. And she says, you don't know me well enough to marry me, Your Grace, and even if you did, marrying me would be a foolish mistake. It's best for me to disappear and wish you well at the end of the night.
Okay.
And he says, is that what you really want, to disappear? And he draws her closer to him and says, say that and I will let you go. And I'm
just thinking of us singing. Is that what you really want? Sorry, go on.
And he asks again who she is, and she says, no one important. And he kisses her. And she's so happy, and it's her first kiss. And then he starts to kiss down her neck, and he says, can I see you again? And asks again who she is. And she's about to tell him because she's so passionate, she's so excited. But then the clock strikes midnight, and she pushes him into the nearest rose bush and runs away.
Jesus.
Good for her.
Yep. Very, very aggressive. Can't you just push him aside? You had to push him into a rose bush with thorns.
Push him into a rose bush.
Blood could have been drawn that night.
Look, sometimes when you got to get away from somebody, you got to make sure they can't get back up.
Right. Rose bush. And so she
classic rose bush scenario.
Runs out, and then she immediately changes and then runs up to her attic. And from her little hidey hole, she sees him still standing in the garden holding her shoe. And then
so she lost it in the rose bush?
She lost the shoe. Well, because she had to run, and her shoe came off.
Too big.
It was too big.
Yeah.
So he's got her shoe. And then the next chapter. So she, from her attic, watches him all night, in the garden, talking to people, trying to find her. Yeah, she's just a little creep, just being kind of feeling special, I imagine, because she's flustered him a lot. And she's like, oh my God, I had my first kiss. That was amazing. And in the morning, he's in the usual spot with his mom, and she can hear her, his mom, Leia, talking about who it might be.
Forgot that his mom was Leia first.
Leia, yeah.
God. Okay.
Picture Victorian dress, cane probably, and the 2 braid buns.
Yeah, totally.
Obviously.
But maybe, further back
but
on
with
the
a
head.
hat on top.
With a jaunty hat.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just Maggie Smithing everything right now. Just 100%.
Hello, mother.
Hello, mother.
Do you want a flower?
Hello, father. And so then she's watching through the open window. She's being a little sneak. And then her uncle is in the attic. And he's yelling at, he's like, Ray. And he's like, why didn't you do blah, 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 blah last night? Because she neglected her chores because she went to the ball. And before she turns around to address her uncle, she sees Ben look up because he obviously heard her uncle yelling at her. And her uncle bursts in and grabs her and is like shaking her and yelling and is like, why don't you ever fucking do what I tell you to do?
How embarrassing.
Yeah. And he's like holding her against the wall, like gripping her really, really hard. And she hears a door breaking downstairs.
Oh, I'm very excited.
And her uncle doesn't seem to hear because he's so busy yelling. But then all of a sudden he's gone as two strong hands pull him away from her. And Ben, disheveled, beads of sweat on his brow, says, Ray, did he hurt you? You aren't safe here.
Oh my God.
And he holds her hand and he goes, come work for me, and drags her out of the townhouse.
Come work for me? Well, I guess he still doesn't know that it's her.
He doesn't know it's her. He thinks that she's just the servant girl next door. And
you'll be my servant now.
You'll be my servant.
You'll be my servant now.
And she says, the man that you just punched is my uncle. And she explains, her demotion.
Yeah.
Demotion. From like lady of the house to scullery maid. And is like, I used to be highborn, but now this. And he goes, that's fine. Like, you can come stay with us. You're not safe here. And he's like, you need to get out of here. And I'm going to help you do that. That wasn't okay what he was doing to you.
Yeah, please come be my servant. I'm going to get married soon. So whoever I marry, you'll just have to listen to her.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
I'll make sure
right?
she doesn't shake you. I'll make sure you're not shaking against a wall.
Don't you worry, honey. I got you now.
So he introduces her to Leia, and Leia needs a lady's maid to help her dress and help her with correspondence and things because she's getting older and she needs the help. And so Ray all of a sudden lives with Ben now, and she's exploring the home and comes to the library.
Oh! I do love a library
and
scene.
She's just so happy about the library, and she's looking around, and Ben finds her there, and they talk about books, and he loves Pride and Prejudice, and so does she, and they talk about Pride and Prejudice, which it would have been published before. Yeah, it was published before Victorian times.
In like
it was
early
Regency.
1800s. Yeah, like 1812s. Victorian era was later, like 1850s.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would have been published and it would have been very well known.
Yeah, it would have been like a couple decades old.
I'm 90% sure those facts are accurate. Go on.
I believe you. So they talk about books for a while, and he asks her to call him Ben, and she's like, that's not proper. You're a duke, and I'm not.
Remember when they were kissing? That wasn't proper either.
But he doesn't know. He doesn't know that they were kissing.
All he knows is that this is a shaken maid.
I don't know, man. He was going for neck kissing.
Wait, can we also say they live next to each other?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did Ben and Leia just move into this house?
I don't think so, but it's heavily implied that they only live in this house in the summer for the season.
Okay, because I would assume if she lived there in the childhood, so would have he. And
I don't think so.
How long has she been watching him and his flowers?
I mean, she's been watching him since she became the maid, I think. So it's only been a couple of years, to my understanding.
Huh.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Interesting.
I'm genuinely not sure. Let's not think about it too hard.
Okay.
That's how most of these stories.
It's a fairy tale.
Let's not. That's fine. I'm gonna yada yada over the backstory.
Yada yada
Yada yada yada. They didn't know each other when they were kids. I think it's fine. And he said so he's like calming Ben. She says it's not proper. He says we might become friends though, and this is the first step to becoming friends is to like talk and say each other's names. And she says, why do you want to be my friend? And he says, well, we seem to have a lot in common. And also he says, and I saw you that night at the masquerade ball.
Oh, in the window.
And she's like, what? And she's like, does he know? I think he might know. But she's trying to like compose herself, and she's like, can he hear my heart beating? And she wants to like go, yes, it was me. But she's like, he has to say it first. I have to know for sure
totally.
that like I'm not jumping to conclusions. And I just have to read it because it's too good. Ray, he took a deep breath, eyes fixed upon her expectant face. I need you to help me find her. Oh. And her dreams felt like they were made of glass, and in the moment they shattered. Her, she says, wondering if he could hear her heart breaking.
Even in fan fiction, men are stupid.
Men are so dumb.
So he's like, I saw you at the window that night that my mystery woman ran away from me. If you were watching the whole time, you must have seen something. You must have seen her and be able to identify her in some way. And she's like trying not to cry and is so disappointed. And she's like, I can't find her for you. It was dark. I really don't think I could. And then she goes, did you save me from my uncle because you thought that I could help you find this woman that you want to marry? Yeah. And she's like mad at him for a minute, and then he goes, no, I wouldn't do that. I would hope you think better of me.
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't.
And he's like, no, he's like looking her in the eye, and he's very intense as Adam Driver can be.
Yeah.
And he's like, I rescued you because I was worried for your safety, and no one deserves to be treated that way.
Good soup.
Yeah. And he was like, my vision clouded, I went red, and I could think of nothing else but getting to you and protecting you. But then he goes, but do you have any advice to find my mystery lady?
I want to protect you, but what's your advice?
Yeah.
On this girl?
What's your advice? And she just kind of deflects it. And,
I mean, good for the author putting in,
Ray being like, bitch.
You know what? I would assume from everything that I remember from watching the movies that he does have blind spots. Certainly when it comes to things that he wants, and his anger gets in the way of those things. So I kind of see what's happening here. But men are so dumb.
Yes.
Men are just so dumb.
He's really dumb right now, and that's fair. Okay, so then next chapter, we kind of skip forward like a month or two. Okay. So she's had some time. She's getting to know Leia. She's getting to know Ben. She's at a ball with the both of them because that's one of her jobs as like a lady's maid is to be there with Leia.
Okay.
And to attend her.
Yes.
And she's watching him dance with like the fifth or sixth lady of the night. And, she knows that he's been still attempting to, like, recognize the mystery woman based on their dancing.
I feel like they're dancing. He just looks over his shoulder going, her? And she just keeps going,
thumbs
nope.
up.
Shaking her head, no.
No. And Ray is very, very jealous because she's admitted to herself at this point that she really likes this man.
Yeah.
And it hasn't helped that now she's been living with him. And she gets to hang out with him and talk to him about books. And she's just, like, consumed with jealousy more and more every single day. And Leia comes up to her and sees Ray kind of looking a little put out and goes, it can't be easy for you to watch him like that. And Ray is like, does she know what's going on? And Leia is like, well, just to have to watch people dancing at a ball and not be included. Like, you're a young woman. Like, you want to have fun.
Ugh.
And Ray is like, oh, no, I'm very grateful to come. Like, even if I can't dance, I really appreciate being here. And Leia goes, no, it's unacceptable. You should know how to dance. I'm going to hire an instructor to teach you how to dance.
It's going to be hot instructor Poe. It's going to be Poe.
And we get kind of a little bit of a flashback of Ray just thinking about like how well Leia has treated her and that she's really taken her in and like not just treated her like a servant, has like included her in meals and been very kind to her and given her a nice, nothing like the treatment that she was getting at the hands of her uncle. And so Ray at this point is very loyal to Leia and Ben, but is very, very grateful to them for what they've been able to do for her. And Ben is always sitting next to her at dinner and keeps bringing her books and asking for her thoughts on them and making it very, very hard for her to not be in love with him this whole time. And he comes over to them after his dance, and Leia was like, well, we just decided that we're going to get a dancing instructor for Ray because she doesn't know how to waltz or anything.
Yeah, our maid doesn't know how to dance properly.
We gotta get this maid a dancing.
Isn't that wild? She never learned.
Clap, clap, entertain me.
Yes.
Oh, God.
And Ben says, well, I can show you the basics of how to dance, and offers her his hand. And she says,
At the ball?
At the ball.
This is scandalous.
I know. And she does not accept. And he says, well, why not? And Leia kind of like does the Carrie Fisher thing, kind of looks at them and then walks away.
So that's what she wrote in there?
She's like, Leia goes, I should go greet the host. I haven't thanked them for hosting us yet, and kind of takes her leave. And because in all of the Star Wars AUs where Leia is involved, she is always the cool mom enabler. Like, she is always usually when I read these fanfics, her character is the one that knows exactly what's going on with her son and is just waiting for him
to figure it out.
And she's just kind of tactfully in the background being like, I'm just going to wait for this idiot to catch up, and then I'll
swoop in.
I'll talk about it later. Yeah, exactly. And so Ben is like, did I offend you in some way? Like, why won't you dance with me? And she's like, well, I never learned how to, and I'm really worried about becoming too accustomed to this luxurious treatment and then something happening and I have to go make my own way. Like, I'm not going to work for you guys forever. And dancing with me will not make you happy. You should return to your sophisticated ladies. She says, you should really make them try on that shoe that you found in the garden and see if it fits. That seems like a better use of your time than dancing with them.
I forgot about the shoe.
The shoe!
Can I just say, it's a little flawed. If the shoes were too big for her, then they're not going to fit when she tries it on.
Nope, they certainly will not.
All right, I just want to put that out there.
You're right.
Cool.
You are correct.
I'm not crazy.
The Cinderella part is loose. It's a loose framework.
I apologize. I'm just working this out for myself.
No. But you're absolutely right. You're absolutely correct. But I always thought that when I would watch Cinderella, of why did her shoe fall off?
Well, I think it's because they were glass.
It's like Into the Woods, where they make it a reason that it would fall off.
We're
she
finally
gets
admitting
stuck.
that women's feet sweat so badly that of course
a
glass slipper is going.
You heard it here first. Women's feet sweat.
They do.
That's why we got so many open-toed shoes.
That's why I wear
That's right.
socks. I wear socks with flats to absorb the sweat, not because I need them.
No, I want to stew in my sweaty flats.
Lovely.
Can't wait for the croc version of the Cinderella story.
Okay, so then she gets kind of upset because he's just insisting that she dance with him, and she's like, no, I won't, because she knows that if they dance together, it'll give her away, and he'll immediately recognize that she was the one at the ball. So she just does what she always does and runs away.
Classic Ray.
And she goes to the library of her new home, obviously. And it's very cozy, and she just sits down on the couch next to the two cats and decides to read. And she's sitting there when he finds her. And and also the thing that killed me is when she walks into the library, she thinks Ben won't find me here, and then she sits down to read, and immediately he walks through the door because of course.
Oh, the first room I checked.
Right. Of course you're in the library that we always. Anyway, so she's sitting on the couch, she's reading Midsummer Night's Dream because of course she is. They start debating Midsummer Night's Dream, and she's like, I never really liked it. She's a hater like you, Andrea. She's like, I've always been unimpressed by all the confessions of love. They just don't feel realistic. They don't feel that. I just don't like any of the characters in it. Everyone's too silly. And he's like, I should take you to the theater to actually see it and see if that changes your mind. And she's like, Demetrius isn't in love with Helena. He's just obsessed with her. And Ben pauses and really thinks about that. And then he glances up and goes, have you ever considered that maybe he made a mistake, and perhaps the events that transpired in the woods made him realize what was always right in front of him? And she's just getting worked up about A Midsummer Night's Dream, and she's like, he spurns her every single time, and he just makes her anxious and jealous, and it's not okay for him to do that to her. And then she realizes that he's looking at her very, very intensely. And he goes, I never planned to make you jealous, Ray.
Oh my god. This is the moment he decides not to be stupid.
In the library.
In the library?
Correct. In the library, of course. And so...
I thought you were going to say of Congress. In the library of Congress.
And once again, she's like, oh my god, does he know about my true feelings? And then he goes, I should have asked you to dance first.
No.
No. I'm so mad.
You're such good friends with me and my mother. It wasn't appropriate for me to ask other ladies to dance before you. You were in...
This is Emily right now. The flames are coming outside of my head. Outside my face.
I'm so annoyed.
And he apologized, and she goes, oh, it doesn't really matter. Like, I don't really know how to dance anyway. And he goes, but you've done it before, don't you remember? With me at the masquerade ball.
Wait.
These are fighting words.
What the fuck? How have I gotten so invested in this stupid ass? Okay.
Bait and switch.
And he goes, I know it was you, Ray. What? I've known for quite a long time.
You son of a... Oh my gosh.
The only thing that could make this better is if you say this in his voice, Jessica.
I know it was you. I've known for a long time.
Thank you. Thank you.
And she immediately like tears up, and he's looking at her with nothing but kindness, and she thinks on him gradually, like them getting to know each other, and him being very kind and considerate and giving her books and making sure she was taken care of. And he admits that he spent the entire week after the ball realizing after she came to live with them that it was her, because obviously.
Okay, so right off the bat, he did not know.
He did not know immediately.
Okay, good.
But he figured it out.
That would have pissed me off if, like, the minute when he went up to help her with the shaking.
So what does he be doing with her shoe for the past week?
Sniffing it.
Sniffing and getting some good smells.
But he so the way that it's written is he realized like in the days right after the ball that it was her, but didn't know how to approach her or approach her uncle or approach the situation because he didn't know what the situation was. Mm-hmm. And then in the few days after, when he overheard her being shaken, he just couldn't help himself. And he saw her uncle like being violent towards her and realized, I could not be gentlemanly when it came to courting you, and just had to get you out of that situation. And so he says, I know that it was very cruel to not tell you for this long, but I knew it was you. And she admits that she had spent years pining for him and wishing that he'd speak to her. And he says, yeah, I knew for like years that you were watching me from the attic.
I called it from
I don't know how this is happening, but I'm starting to really loathe him.
I
like every fiber of my being is like, oh, so he's actually the villain in this story.
I know, a little bit.
Just like in Star Wars.
Yeah. And he says that he was hoping that over time, especially after he asked her for her help to find the mystery woman, that it would get her to confess to him. But he regrets not just being truthful with her and telling her that he loved her. And I can't even read my notes because you both are so mad. You both are so angry.
I love that we're also doing nonverbal on a podcast.
I'm so mad. I'm going to read this part because it's going to make you even angrier. Damn
it, Jessica.
He didn't tell her because he wanted her to realize that she was worth it, that she was worth wanting, and that he wanted her to take ownership of how valuable she was and confess to him that she had wanted him the whole time and like really like step forward. But he realizes that was a fucked up thing to do. But he really just wanted her to realize that she's worthy of so much, and yet refuses to see her own accomplishments because of the difference in their station. And he's just been trying this whole time to prove that there is not really a difference between them and that she's worthy of him. And he asks for her to let him prove that he never meant to hurt her, and that he's loyal and true, and that he wants to court her properly, and that he should have done that from the beginning.
I'm going to fight Kylo Ren. I'm going to fight Kylo Ren. I didn't realize this was going to happen.
Oh, boy.
I'm going to physically fight him.
If this is what she wants to end up with, let her end up.
That's what I was hoping for.
I'm so mad.
If this is what Ray wants.
Yep, that's what she wants.
Fairy tales are weird, man.
Fairy tales are weird. She says, are you saying that I'm free to choose you as well, just like you've chosen me? And he says, yes. And she says, if I want to work somewhere else and live somewhere else while you're courting me properly, is that fine? And he says, yep, you're free to do that. I will help find alternate employment if you're not comfortable being here, knowing like my true feelings. And that's enough for her apparently, because she says that she loves him, and then she kisses him, and they immediately start making out. They immediately start like taking off clothes in the library.
Oh, best place to do it.
And she reminds him, she's like, you said that you court me properly like a lady, and ladies shouldn't be alone with a man without a chaperone. And he looks at the cats who are glaring at them from the couch and are really mad because they've been making too much noise. And he goes, I think they count, right? They probably count.
A little bit of levity for this moment.
And she goes, we should probably test that, and kisses him again. And gals, how do we feel about banging in front of our animals? I personally kick my cats out of the room.
I don't own pets, but I have dated men with them. And the thing is, specifically, there was a dog, very large dog, but he stayed on the ground and was asleep, and we were up on the bed.
Okay.
So it's like I forgot he was there, and like that's okay. Like if I don't realize it, but if they're sitting there on the bed,
I've had one too many situations where we are in the middle of it,
and the dog and the animal comes
Esme jumps up and tries to lay on my chest, and snuggle.
How it goes,
and so ever since that happened one too many times, they get locked away somewhere.
You know, I leave it up to the animal owner because there was a very now famous in my friend group time where I wore pheromone cologne. And I didn't think it was working that well until the German Shepherd kept cock blocking me. That's a story. That's a story for another day.
That's amazing.
I'll tell you that off the air.
Yeah.
Hi, Mom. I know you're listening. I'll tell you that off the air.
What do you think?
I usually kick our pets out, but if it's like Jake and I kind of like have like look, we've got a busy week ahead of us, and it's raining and
quota. We have quota.
Yeah, and like Murphy is so scared of storms.
Murphy's the cat.
Murphy's the
dog. The dog. Cody's the cat.
Cody's the cat.
Yeah.
Cody never hangs out in the room. Murphy though, like he's like, you guys, please don't leave me out here if it's raining. Please, you don't understand. The rain is gonna get me. It's like, oh man. Like, not only is that killing the mood, it's also...
Especially if he's crying outside the door.
Yeah.
Or
Murphy doesn't make any noise, but you can hear him...
Yeah.
Like, because he dances when he's nervous, so you hear his little paws.
And that's distracting itself, too, yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than hearing... And not only that, but I'm sure you understand, like, your pets become your babies, you know? And it's like, I guess this is either not happening, or he's going to have to sit on the floor every single time. It's just like, this is just not happening.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had that before where we're, like, in the middle of business, and they start fighting. And it's like, well, I guess we're not gonna finish this. So to finish this story, they're making out hard. She says, this is all very new to me, Ben, but since I have the freedom to choose, I want our courtship to be very brief. So he proposes to her while they're half naked making out on the couch to make it proper because Victorian. And after he gets her out of her corset and is just in her underclothes, he almost like comes and has to hold himself back,
which is still so
many clothes, by the way. Her in her like shift or whatever the fuck it's called,
which is not like form-fitting at all.
No. He sees her in a nightgown,
see-through paper bag, baby.
Yeah. He sees her arms and her ankles and is like, wait, and has to like compose himself.
Show a little ankle, ladies.
And then what is he doing with that shoe? I reiterate.
He still has it somewhere.
No trust.
And then they cry about how much they love each other, and then he eats her pussy. And
it.
And then
not with the ankle showing.
No. Oh no! And then after she comes, he has to quote get her ready for him because he's so big, obviously. And then she comes again, and we love that for her.
Yeah.
And then I just need to read this because it's so cringy, but I love it.
Boy.
It felt as if he'd already come with her. His heart so full just by seeing her face as she gazed at him with sheer wonder, as if she could not comprehend how such a simple act could bring so much pleasure to them both. And then they bang, and they both come at the same time, and it's all very romantic. And then they hear his mother calling outside and knocking on the library door.
Oh, shit.
And to end the story, Ben, Ray, I know you're in there. When you two emerge from this room, I expect to hear of an engagement. Another knock followed, this time less polite than the one which came before. I spent weeks trying to matchmake you two, and I won't let my efforts go to waste.
Cool, Mom.
Finn.
Oh, wow.
That is, what was it called? That was called At the Stroke of Midnight. That was At the Stroke of Midnight by bunilicious.
The fact that there was no hand job and the entire thing was called The Stroke of Midnight.
I know.
It's a little bit.
I'm so
really
sorry.
Lost an opportunity there. Honestly, fun.
Yeah.
I do love a story that makes me so angry.
Yeah.
I like a visceral reaction to a
You
story.
love to hate.
I love to hate.
It
but
felt like you
time.
both had strong reactions to
I
that.
guess Kylo Ren's a dumbass.
Look,
Sorry, Ben.
Sorry, Ben. I don't know. You did a wonderful job.
Thank
And
you.
you know what? The writer clearly had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah. It was a gift for their friend. So they
Yeah.
had a great time
I do
making
like
a gift
that
for
too.
their friend.
What a nice gift too. If somebody was like, "Hey, I'm gonna write you a story," first off, my heart would just leap right off of my chest.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. You did what for me? Mm-hmm. You wrote me a story. You wrote me a song. You drew something. Dead.
Yeah. And 4 whole chapters. And then my game, which really is a question.
Okay.
Which fairy tale would you most want to be romanced in? If you think of a fairy tale world or a fairy tale character, which one would you most like to be courted properly inside of?
Like you are the character. You are one of the main characters, or
Yeah.
like you're just in that world.
Either. So mine, I think, would probably be, I don't even know if this is a fairy tale, but I'm going to pick it anyway. Like Robin Hood.
Oh, I love Robin
That's
Hood.
great.
I would love to live in the woods with a gang of ruffians and really cause some havoc.
That is actually sexy Robin Hood retellings. I've read many.
I never have.
Oh,
You
I
gotta
love
send me
them.
one.
I love them. Yeah, and I
Send
think
me
I
one,
asked you
please.
that too. I was like, Robin Hood is not a fairy tale because it's a story. It's
Yeah.
a literature.
Yeah.
But I was like, I could read 4 of those and be happy.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love Maid Marian, Robin Hood, smut.
I love a good Arthurian legend.
Yes.
Yes.
Ooh.
I can get
I
out my
do.
Bullfinch's mythology and we'll pull some out. tonight.
I do enjoy that. Mine is Rumpelstiltskin.
I love
Don't judge that.
Rumpelstiltskin was my favorite fairy tale as a child.
Yeah,
I love.
There's something very, very alluring to me about someone trying to foil a good situation and then realizing that you can outdo and or outsmart.
Yeah.
And then there's also just something very romantic about your heart's desires being answered by said villain. I mean, you could just turn that around 6 ways to Sunday and make it pretty damn sexy.
I love that.
I think that the Rumpelstiltskin fairy tale is actually one that doesn't end in a way that makes me go, oh god.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It has like a logical, like the end kind of justifies the story, and she comes out on top.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the power of a name, and I love there's so much fun lore to it.
Yeah.
So
I gotta see if there's some Rumpelstiltskin fanfic out there.
Emily was so quick on the jump to be like, really?
Yeah.
No, only because you said it so fast. Because I'm literally looking up a list of the actual fairy tales because I'm only thinking Disney, and I'm like, no, I want to know them. But as I'm looking at this, love the idea of the Frog Prince.
Really?
Not kissing a literal frog, but the meaning
world,
of it.
The world.
Of being like, you got to kiss a few frogs to find your prince. Like, I like that idea. I've been living that. The other one I do like is The Princess and the Pea.
Yeah.
Of like,
absolutely,
you know,
being yourself, down to your core and not having any fear of that. I love that.
Yeah.
I think those are 2 of my answers.
I love that. I think that's great.
What's yours?
I mean, kind of Robin Hood, but that's not really a fairy tale. Honestly, Rapunzel.
That was also a thought I had.
I think might be one of mine, just because I
Sneaking
like
around.
Yeah, the sneaking around of it and the secrecy of it, and also the finding your own way despite the barriers put in front of you. Like the empowerment of that, I really like, and also like being able to be like, well, I guess I'll let down my hair and you can come up and just for like an hour, and then I'm gonna let down my hair again and you can go. I like
the coming and going of it is really
Yeah.
the attraction to you.
I also,
but like this is my space.
Yep.
This is my tower,
Yeah.
and you can visit.
Complete control.
But I might decide to get a bob haircut, and then you're done. And we just need to be aware of that.
Again, I like that my first thought was, and your mom won't find out. You're sneaking around so that mom won't find out.
I mean, that's something to talk to your therapist about.
Lauren and I are meeting tomorrow, so don't worry.
Great.
But yeah, that was a good book.
Thank you.
That was a good game. I liked it.
you.
Fairy Tale Retellings.
Yes.
I had a lot to choose from, and I was having issues being like, is Robin Hood, is this, is that? And I didn't want to, like, not that Katie Roberts is a cop-out, but I had read The Sea Witch last, I was going to say semester, last season.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do something different. I challenged myself, and then this fell into my lap. And
I'm so excited.
I'm excited to tell you guys about it. Have you read White Roses, A Fairy Tale Retold?
No.
Good. It's by Alodia Thaliel. Quite the name. It's 327 pages. It came out July 28th, 2023. So it's relatively new.
Yeah.
We're going to jump right in.
Great.
There is, it's mostly one POV, but sometimes we switch into somebody else. There's only like 2 or 3 chapters. But so we start with Landon, who I kept typing as Ladon, which is not.
This is one of the first normal names I've heard in a minute. Landon, I can understand.
I can handle Landon.
Yeah.
Landon's still a little weird, but I can handle it.
I feel like I've heard Landon before.
Right.
Like,
It sounds like a kid, like one of the kids that you probably have babysat, because it's definitely not our.
Landon and Lakin.
Not our
Yeah.
generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Landon is fighting and winning against a dragon. He is fighting in human form.
All right.
Hold on, I'll pause on that one. And it's like a crazy fight. There's a terror, his sword is going, the dragon is puffing, and he defeats it, and it's great. And he's exhausted, he's tired. He's like, all right, well, now I got to go back home because this dragon was trying to kill our farmland and our kingdom, and all of a sudden, and a breeze hits, and he smells something.
Oh.
Briar wakes up and can't really see. She's like, what the fuck? What is on my face? And she feels like her body kind of coming back to life, and she feels like grimy, and she hears a voice saying, all right, well, can you drink this? And she can't really see again. She gets handed a water skein, and she drinks, she puts them on her hands, wipes her eyes because there's dust all on her eyes. And she looks up to find her room covered in nature. There's vines everywhere. There's bushes. The castle that she once fell asleep in is now gone.
Oh.
We learn that she thinks that she's in Skyridge, which is a city in the Verdant Hills. And she's kind of getting her bearings of like, this is my room, but it's not my room. What the fuck's going on? And all of a sudden, Landon's like, hi. And she's like, what the fuck are you? And she looks, and he's this guy covered in blood and armor, because he goes, oh, sorry, I just killed a dragon. You're safe. I smelled you. And so I came here because that's where the smell was telling me to go.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understand.
I guess I should say that this is a werewolf.
Got it. I was like,
everyone's
Fated
werewolves.
Mates, Fate Omegaverse.
Everyone's werewolves.
Which scent are we?
And I
going
guess you could
Okay.
call it an Omegaverse fairy tale.
Aha!
And I fell onto this, and I thought, this is perfect.
I'm so happy about this.
Actually, I'm
Episode 1, season
super
4.
excited.
So she's like, yeah, totally, you smelled me. I get that. Yeah. She can't really talk. Her voice is still like from not being used in a long time. And, she kind of motions. She's like kind of gravelly voice of like, I need to see the castle. And he's like, what castle? And they walk down the stairs of where her bedroom is, like in a turret. And there's just like nothing there anymore. It's just ruins and nature.
So much Shrek imagery popping into my head right now.
She's running down hallways thinking her siblings are there, and nothing is there. And so he's like, there's nothing here. Like, come back with me. Come back to my kingdom.
It's really sad.
It's
Yes.
really sad.
Dang. Wow, we hitting fairy tale hard right now.
Omega versus Fairy Tale. And so he's like, I'm Prince Landon, like, come back with me. She's like, yeah, totally. They are riding the horses back, and she's like, what year is it? She learns they're in the year of Wolf 45.
Great.
The last one she remembers is Dragon 1115.
How many animals are between the two?
Right.
So when she gets to Fenestrel, which is the, like, kingdom, Prince Landon, like, carries her, and she's so weak. He's like, I'm going to get a healer to come help you.
She's so demure.
She's so demure, so mindful. And the healer comes to see her, and she can't really talk well, you know. So the healer's like, you good? And she's like, no. And the old...
She sounds like Pepper Ann.
Come on. The old healer then morphs into Eris, Eris, who is the evil Fey witch, who Briar remembers lived in the woods by her castle, her family home.
Interesting.
Eris is like, oh, so glad you're awake. She's like, what? Eris is like, yeah, I'm the one that cursed you. You just woke up. You've been asleep for 5,000 years.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a lot of animals.
That's a long time.
That's a lot of animals in between dragons and wolves. I bet there was an elephant. She's kind of like cackling. She's laughing. She's like, you're going to be fine. Like, Briar is like freaking out, being like, you're evil. Oh my God. She's like, why don't you come find me? Like,
I love an evil witch.
Yeah. She's like, I'll at least tell you about the last like 1,000 years. And Briar's like, fuck you. And Eris like leaves. She's like, I don't know what to do. She falls asleep in this guest room, basically, in this castle. And she wakes up the next morning. Her throat is on the mend. She has like this good tea and stuff. And she has 4 helpers with her. I did not write down their names, but they are the names of the fairies in Sleeping Beauty.
Yep.
So if you haven't guessed already, Briar Rose, Sleeping Beauty. It's a Sleeping Beauty retelling.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, okay, I need a plan. I don't know what to do. She doesn't know she should tell people that she's a 5,000-year-old princess. And her 4 maids are super helpful and are trying to help her navigate this new like land, a new area. And they're like, you are so pretty. Do you have any dresses? And she's like, no. And they're like, okay, well, we found a dress for you. And they like do her up, and it's this whole thing.
Does it change colors?
No, it does not change colors.
So can she, just out of curiosity, can she speak, or is this like a Little Mermaid situation where
she
has
can
no
speak?
voice?
She just hasn't spoken in 5,000 years, so she's got a very like rough sounding.
So it is the Pepper Ann theory.
She's Pepper Ann right now, but it gets better. But
Okay.
so for the first couple of days, she can't really talk well because
So she's not singing to the birds.
she's not singing.
Thank God. I hate
Yeah.
that part.
When you're talking about tropes for fairy tales, a princess who can't speak, immediately you go to Ariel. But
Yeah.
if she's like Pepper Anning, like, let me tell you about the really cool thing I did, kids. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So she's
love
also
that.
just like trying to do some strategy here. She's like, what do? I am a royal, but I don't know how to tell people that. And also this, and she's thinking back, like throughout this book, she'll keep like thinking back to what her mom taught her. So we learned that she was the oldest daughter of this royal family, and she was set to like inherit the throne. So she had like royal lessons. So she knows about like strategy, about government talks or whatever, blah, 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 blah. So
She's the Kamala Harris.
she's the
Yeah,
Kamala Harris.
Kamala
yeah.
Harris. Sorry.
Yeah. Kamala.
She asks the maids about Landon. She learns Landon has left the castle. He's not there right now. So she's like, well, I gotta do something. So she goes out for a walk. She goes into like the courtyard area where like the rest of the people are hanging out. She learns that solstice is upon them, hence why there are so many more people at court, basically. And as she's walking around, everyone is looking at her because she realizes she was a little out of it, tired yesterday, that when Landon brought her in, carrying her, it was in the middle of like one of the balls.
Oh, Jesus.
It was like the first night, and he like kicks open the door with this maid being like, I need a healer. And I was like, damn. So
Drama.
So everyone was like, oh, there's the girl that needed the healer. Who is she? And she meets Elias. Elias is the only one to come up to her. Everyone is talking. She's kind of like walking by herself. And he's like, hey, sup? So Elias is a hot fae.
Great.
We love this.
We love a hot fae. He's a duke, and he's the only person to come up to her and be like, sup?
I'm immediately only picturing David Bowie from Labyrinth.
All of these men sound like somebody's nephew. Like, like
Landon and Elias.
Elias. Yeah, like, I'm so sorry. I got to go pick them up from daycare. Like,
What do you think is a hotter name, Landon or Elias?
Elias sounds more like something that has existed before Landon, and then somebody was like, Landon. That kind of reminds me of something that that I would want to name a kid.
Elias is like the artsy boy.
Yeah.
Landon is the jock.
I was thinking, well, I think because they say Landon is blonde, Elias has dark hair. So I was thinking like the tousled, dark, curly hair would be Elias.
I immediately pictured Elias as a redhead. So I'm a little sad about that.
But we can pretend he's David Bowie.
I'm immediately going to tell you something
Yes.
that might make you guys hate me. I don't like a dark-haired love interest.
That's okay.
I mean,
to each their own.
You did marry a blonde.
Yeah, you married a blonde boy.
I do. I love a blonde-haired
That's
love.
okay.
And when it happens, ugh.
I mean, I say
so rare.
I love a dark-haired love interest, but I also am obsessed with Hermione, who is the blondest of blondes. So,
Yeah.
it really ain't no shame in a hair color.
I love a dark hair.
And I've dated one of each. I've dated a redhead, a blonde, and a brunette.
I'm married to a blonde, but I just have a thing for it.
I think it's like, I think like we've gotten to the point where everyone's expecting it in the books now, and whenever
to be olive skin, dark eyes, dark curly hair that's tousled with some stubble. So Elias walks up to her. He's a hot fae, he's a duke, and he's the only person to come up to her and be like, hey, what's your name? What's going on? And she's like, I'm Briar. I am here. And he's like, okay. So she's very evasive about all the questions. He like brings her into one of the groups that's sitting out, out there. Everyone meets her and they're like, where do you come from? She's like, over the mountains.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay.
This is exactly how I would play it too.
But she also can't really speak, so it works to her advantage of like mountains, like she's pepperanning her, and they immediately become friends. He's really cute, but he's also just like, you good? And she's like, I'm okay. And he is like, can I escort you to the ball that night? And she's like, would love that. I don't know if I have anything to wear, but I would love that.
we don't need words for what we're going to do.
No. And so, and of course, her like 4 maids are like, we found another dress so you can go to the ball. And she's like, great.
my
So
favorite.
in the interim though, she goes to the library because she's like, I need to read the history, like what happened to my family. And there's like nothing mentioned, and she starts crying. She's like, there's like one blip about my family name. I don't know what happened to my siblings. I don't know what happened to my parents. Like, this is really sad. And Elias finds her in the library and she sobs on him. And he's like, you good? And she's like, no. And he's like, it's okay. Like, you don't have to tell me, but like, let's go to the ball. And she's like, yes. So she's super pretty at the ball. Good. And
good. She deserves it.
He's escorting her around. Her throat's getting a little better, but she's still playing it up so she doesn't have to talk to too many people. But then, the crowd's part and the king is standing there. And Elias is like, you got to go meet the king. And she's like, okay. And he's kind of like mean looking. He's kind of like staring her down. And he's like, I'm glad that Landon found you. Our kindness here is good. I expect you'll want to be out by the end of the festivities.
My nephew Landon.
By the end of by the end of the holidays. And she's like, what holiday is it? And that's when she finds out it's solstice, which is like it ends in like 2 days. It's like a couple day long thing. And she's like, oh. So she starts freaking out because she's like, cool, I'm in a place I don't know. I have to leave in 2 days. I have no connections. This guy that found me is gone. What the fuck? And so the next day, she makes up this like bullshit story. She like calls Elias. She's like, can you come to my room? And basically tells him the story about her being an orphan, which is half true. And is like, I came from like a really good family. My parents died. I have no one, so I just left with the clothes on my back. I have nothing. Landon found me. And so she kind of like says the story. Elias is like, you want to come back to my house with me? And she's like, I would love that. And he's like, yeah, I'm a duke. I have a whole mansion. Like, yeah, come live with me and we can like figure it out.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, Elias.
Both of our stories have just random dudes taking women into their homes.
I don't know why, but I'm more okay with this version. So
That's fair. No, that's fair.
Because and he kind of says it as like he's a fae. He is older. He's like 100 years older, quote unquote, than her. And he's like, listen, you're a really interesting person. You're the first interesting thing I've seen in like a long time in this kingdom. I don't expect anything. Let's just be friends. Like, let's hang out. And she's like, thank you for that.
Okay, so, Elias.
So if he's a fae, has he lived through the Dragon Age? Is this
Not
getting
that
ahead?
old.
Okay.
Not that old. Because she's 5,000. He's like 300.
Oh, an age gap.
Age gap romance. So they're going to tea later that day when she starts to feel kind of sick. And she's like, ooh, I think I should go back. Like, I'm feeling kind of nauseous. And she lays down and she wakes up and her maid is over her and she goes, oh, you're going into heat. And Jessica just... Everyone's excited.
Interesting.
And she's like, oh my God, I haven't been in a heat in 5,000 years. This is going to be really bad. And
I imagine it like when you haven't had your period for a few months and you've forgotten.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you have to deal with this again.
Which is kind of like what it's like for me sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I'm on the arm implant. And it's never terrible. But when it comes, I'm like, fuck. You know? It's just like, oh, I got to remember to buy tampons. Anyways, Elias comes in. He knocks on her door. He's like, I heard you were sick. I can tell you're in heat. Everyone can. They can smell it. And he's like, I know I'm not a wolf, but there are spells that I can cast. And I can be here to kind of help you through it. He's like, I'm better than nothing, right? Like, do you need help? Because going through heat alone is like known to be bad.
It's very kind of him.
Yes.
I don't trust this person.
And
This Faye.
And she's about to say yes because she's like, I'm scared. He's like really the only person that I trust, blah, blah. When all of a sudden, Landon pushes him. He's like, I imagine it as like Elias is standing in the doorway, like, what do you say? And he immediately like puts his hand on his head, like pulls him back and is like, no. And Landon's like, get the fuck out. She's my Omega. And that's the first time we learn that she's an Omega. Elias is like, I'll leave you to it. But he kind of looks at Briar. He's like, you good? And Briar's like shell shocked, like, yeah, I'm good. Because the minute she kind of like looks at Landon, she's like, alpha. Like the alpha tendency like went in there. And
good looking blonde dude, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. And this leads to number 1, called A Good Old-Fashioned Nodding with some talk of breeding. First one of the season.
Hey.
He tells her they have this whole sex scene, which was like real. I mean, this was like maybe 20% in. So I was like, wow, this is exciting. It's a big sex scene. They're having a great time. And while they're kind of doing that, they're also talking. And he's like, because she's still not in the madness of the heat yet, he's like, the minute I smelled you, I smelled that you were an Omega, like on the wind. That's how I followed you. That's how I found you in the tower. Like, I think like you're it for me. He says he wants to marry her because he wants like a chill, political free marriage. Because she was just sleeping in a tower. Like, she clearly can't be, political.
Yeah.
And she's like, she's like,
Tamlin.
yeah, that's hot.
I'm getting Tamlin vibes.
Yeah,
I agree.
I don't know. I have not, but I definitely had that Ken moment from Barbie where my non-committal girlfriend.
Yeah.
was the line. Dang it.
Oh, God, I don't know. It's killing me, though. It's going to kill me.
And she's like, that's hot. And she's thinking, like, okay, he can protect me. Again, I'm in a place, I find him very attractive. My inner wolf is, like, definitely all for him. So I'm just going to say, yeah, that sounds good. So they keep having sex a lot because her heat goes on for 2 weeks, which is like 10 days longer than it should or
That's
something
every
like
freshman year of college, first person who you bang. It's like 2 weeks of really like, does he like me?
Yeah.
And then you guys are banging all the time, and then like 2 weeks you realize like, oh, I don't actually like this person. How do I break up with them?
Long-term, long-distance, low-commitment, casual girlfriend.
Long-term, long-distance.
Low-commitment, casual girlfriend.
And that's what Landon is looking for.
Yes, perfect.
So her heat goes on for 2 weeks. He's like, babe, this is not normal. Like, you need to see a healer. And she starts freaking out because the last time she saw a healer, it was Eris. And she's like, no. And there's this whole scene where she kind of like, they're both naked in her room. He's like starting to dress. He's like, I'm going to go get something from the healer. And she is like running around naked trying to stop him. And she's so freaked out. And he sees that. And he's like, okay, like calm down. We're just going to, I guess, mate if that's what you want. And she's like, yeah, just mate me, like do the bite. Like, let's do the whole thing. Not in me, beep boop bop. And afterwards, after they mate, she's back to normal. And she goes, it's like, 2 weeks and a day later. And she goes out and Elias immediately finds her and is like, don't worry about that whole thing. Can we still be BFFs? And she's like, yes. So this is when I was like, oh, is Elias supposed to be the gay best friend that's not actually gay? Like, I think that's the vibe that they're going for.
Okay.
And I'm kind of for it. I'm here for it.
Boo.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I'm still figuring it out.
So that night, Landon and Briar go to a diplomatic dinner because now she's the fiance of the prince. And he's like, are you going to be okay? And she's like, I know exactly what to do. And of course, she's been trained for this. She's very demure. And I love that I keep saying that. And she, like, quote unquote, does well. And I said, as she was trained in etiquette because she's a fucking princess.
Yep.
And the whole while she teases him while at dinner because, like, her hand is on his thigh, like, under the table. And he's finally like, hey, I got to go talk to Briar. Like, we'll be right back. And he, like, basically once they leave the room, he, like, sweeps her up and is like, bitch, you cannot tease me like that. And so they go into the room. It's leads number 2. Let's break the door down because they almost break the door when they're fucking up against it. And there's a lot of, like, mine talk, you know, like, you're mine. And she's like, yeah,
I'm here for this.
I love a good mine talk, and I love a good breeding king too.
Yeah,
which is happening every time they have sex.
Yay!
So, okay, a week goes by. Life is good. She's chilling. It's great. She's chilling with Elias on the veranda, and when all of a sudden an alarm sounds, and someone's like, a dragon is coming to the city. And she has learned that the dragon epidemic is happening, but she's like, this is weird because in my time, dragons were our friends. They never attacked us. We actually, like, gave them, you know, cows every, like, year, and they would eat them, and then they, you know, like a gift. Like, we gave them gifts, they would protect us.
Yeah.
They had, like, a Targaryen relationship with the dragons.
Yes. And so, not riders, but friends. And so, it was like, she's just like, every time someone's like, the fucking dragon, she's like, no, dragons are good. Yeah. And so this is happening. Everyone's like, we need to protect you. Like, you're the princess now, pretty much. Like, you might be pregnant because everyone knows she was in a 2-week heat. And she's like, yeah, but, like, dragons are our friends, right? And she goes into the safe room for, like, hours. She hears, like, all this battling and stuff. And then Landon goes, you know, while this is happening, Landon is killing it, and she's safe and sad, but then Landon comes back and she's happy. So it's this very, like, I'm having a hard time because I know dragons are good, but also, like, I'm so into Landon, and that was really dangerous, and bee boo bop. So
I'm such a damsel.
She's a damsel.
She is a true damsel.
So because of this dragon epidemic, he starts training a lot more, and she feels like she never gets to see him during the day. Every night he comes back to the bed, and they have, like, total monkey sex or wolf sex, whatever. And so she's like, I want to see what he's doing. So she sneaks into one of the trainings. Like, think of it as, like, it's in a courtyard, and there's, like,
I'm picturing it like Game of Thrones.
Where you can look down. Yeah. Like a balcony. That's the word I'm looking for. Come on, guys.
Sorry. So sorry.
And she's watching him because he's half transformed. So he has claws. He has, like, some fur. He has, like darker eyes. And, like, I think, like, wolf feet.
Hot.
Wow.
But he can also still, like, hold a sword. I'm thinking,
he hasn't lost the thumbs.
I'm thinking, like, old movie the Wolf Man, like 1950s, like, but without the head of a wolf.
Right.
Oh, so it's still kind of like a body, but wolf features. Does that make sense?
Not really, but I appreciate you trying.
Body of a man,
right?
Hands of a wolf.
No, because he needs to have thumbs.
Okay, body of a man.
There you go.
Fingers of a wolf.
No, like he needs to have thumbs.
Wolverine, like Wolverine claws.
How's he holding a sword?
Also with a thumb.
So are we thinking more along the lines of Beast from Beauty and the Beast?
Oh,
because he had thumbs.
There you go. That makes more sense.
But more human.
More human than the Beast.
More human.
Less facial hair.
Yes, like all human face except for, like, the eyes. And then
because those are wolf eyes.
Because he's got wolf eyes. So he's basically
like a doll's eyes.
I wouldn't go into so much detail if this wasn't important, but he's half transformed.
Right.
And he's basically, like, beating everyone. You know, he's got, like, 6 guys around him. He's, like, easily doing this. And then he kind of, like...
2 swords.
He's got 2. He's got claws in one hand, a sword in another.
Right.
And she's like, oh, this is fucking hot. And then, of course, she, you know... gets all aroused, and then her scent picks up on the wind, and he immediately is like, stop, and he looks up, sees her, and he's like, oh. And so then he starts going like harder, and he like takes out training wise, takes out everyone like within a minute. He's like, okay, that's it for the day. And he like stands, looks at her, points at her, and is like, you stay there. And she's like, oh, okay. And he like within a minute comes up there, and he's like, to the room now. They start like making out on the balcony, and she's like, there are little pups all around, and he's like, we gotta go to the rooms. So
the mention of pups as
little pups. And so they go to their room because they can't keep their hands off each other, and they do it while he's half shifted. And then she becomes half shifted. Oh. Because she's like, I could never do that, but you're inspiring me. And she hasn't shifted fully since she woke up. So this is like a big deal for her. So this leads to number 3, a little fur and a lot of dick. And it's a half-shifted fuck fest.
It's an amazing title, Emily.
Good for you.
This is why you're a writer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I could never.
So afterwards, he's like, okay, gotta go back to training. And he's like putting on his stuff. He kind of like leaves, but he like leaves some stuff in the room. So she's hanging out in the room, and Eris appears like in a plume of red smoke. And she's like, I can't wait for you to see what I have in store for you. And Briar's like, the fuck? I already lost 5,000 years of my life.
Right.
Like, what the fuck? And as they're talking, Landon comes back and is like, who the fuck is this?
Oh, she's my evil witch.
And Eris disappears, and then she reappears. Like, she kind of like blinks out, blinks in, and Landon's like, what the fuck? She's like, hi, I'm Eris. I'm the dragon witch. And then she's like, I'm just fucking with the princess over here, and then like leaves. And Landon's like, first of all, the fuck. Second of all, why'd she call you princess? Because she's not like married yet, like she's not officially. And Briar's like, this is where I read this book. I read up to this point, it's like 50%. And then I went, I need to take a break because I got so annoyed at this part.
Okay.
Briar is like, Eris is evil. I don't know what she's talking about. Landon's like, no, tell me the truth. She's like, I don't know how to tell you this truth. He's like, just do it. And this is like 3 pages of like, well,
I can't, but you must.
Yes.
I can't, but
right.
I must.
Yeah.
And I wrote like, just fucking tell him the truth. And so then he's like, okay, when I get back, you better tell me the truth. And he leaves for 4 days because he's so mad at her. What?
Oh,
he just leaves.
He just keeps leaving.
He just keeps leaving.
Yeah.
So he comes back, and she tells him the entire story. She's like, this is what I know to be true. And he's like, okay, I'm going to talk to my dad.
Papa.
And we're going to get you some help. And she's like, wait, what? And he's like, I think we're going to figure out if you're with child. Then if you are, I think we're going to have you just stay here, deliver the child, then maybe put you like in an asylum. And she's like, what? And so she's like, well, I don't know what to do now. So she stays in the room.
Fucking
and she just writes everything she can remember. Because also, I'm like, okay, I guess this is like a very insane tale to tell, because magic is still a thing there, but not as much of a thing as it used to be. So it's hard for him to believe. But he's like, this sounds fucking crazy. You're crazy. So as she's in this room, she's with child. She's like bedridden pretty much because she has nothing else to do.
Oh, so she is pregnant.
She is. They find out she's pregnant.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, because
they've been banging nonstop.
I mean, I figured, but I wanted to confirm.
Yeah, another healer comes in and she's like, pregnant. Yeah. Well, she goes, it feels like you feel cold for a wolf. Wolves like run hot. She goes, you're so cold. It feels like you've just woken up from a long sleep. And she goes, you don't know the half of it. So while she's like staying in this, like quarantined in this room pretty much, she starts writing every memory she can ever remember, like from her life when growing up in what was it called, River or something, whatever, Riverdale. And so then we get Landon's point of view again. Like, we haven't heard from him since the prologue, so now we have a random Landon chapter, and he's just like, she must be telling the truth. I don't know. Like, I'm kind of in love with this girl.
Should I believe the woman I love? I don't know.
Kinda in love.
So we get Landon's POV. He's like, is she telling the truth? I don't know. I really miss her because he hasn't really seen her since she's been like sequestered in this room. And he kind of checks on her while she's sleeping, and he's just like, fuck, like, she's my mate. Like, I really love her. I really don't know what to do. I feel very torn because I kind of feel like I believe her, but I also, it's just too unbelievable. And then in the middle of all this thinking, the alarm raises. Another dragon is coming. So he runs, he puts on his armor, he's fighting, beep-boop bop, and he all of a sudden sees the dragon is like going around and going to the other side of the castle, which is where Briar is and where Briar's room is and is sleeping. And so he takes off running through the halls and he's like, gotta get to my girl, my baby and my baby. And
amazing.
The dragon actually knocks out like one of the walls of her room, and she's almost hurt. She's kind of like under all this rubble, and he freaks the fuck out, and she's like, I'm okay. And he like scoops her up and he's like, I'm done running from this. Like, you're mine. And so he's like, okay. So he's kind of with her from this point on, but not really. Because he's doting on her. He's being very protective. He's like, I love you. I still don't know if I believe you, though, because that's fucking crazy.
He's still a man, and now
he's still
coming
a man.
up really stupid.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's like, here. And she pulls out like a fucking like Harry Potter 7-sized manuscript.
Okay.
And it's like, here are all my memories. Read this. And he's like, okay. And so he just sits down on the other side of the room and starts reading. And she's like, oh, you're going to do it
that
now?
here?
Yeah. And he's like, would you like me to wait? And she's like, no, totally. And so she just kind of like stares at him for like 4 pages.
First period felt like daggers.
It's like there's a ton of back and forth.
It's me, Briar.
He does this for a long time. There's a lot of back and forth about if he can trust her. And finally, this is like a whole chapter. And he finally finishes it. And he's like, okay, I believe you. She's like, really? He's like, yeah, this is too in-depth, too detailed to be like a story. Like these are memories. This is like a real thing. Like, this is insane. Let's figure out how to like fix this. Beep boop bop. And then as soon as they're like, yes, reconciled, Eris pops back up in the room and she's like, stop being happy, Briar. I want you to be miserable. I'm gonna fuck your shit up. And so she starts like trying to do a curse on Briar, and Landon half shifts. So again, claws. This time I'd say full claws.
Right.
You know?
Obviously.
And they start fighting, and he's drawing blood and she's doing magic. And he kind of like grapples her, and they launch out of the window onto like, I don't know, the courtyard. And the alarm sounds, and then all these people are like, who's that? And he's like, it's the dragon witch. And then she's like, fucko, I'm going to leave, and runs away.
I love that.
Briar passes out. Yeah. She's like, preggo. She passes out, wakes up. Landon's like, I am so sorry for everything. You are my mate. I believe you. Let's kill Eris. And she's like, fuck yeah. Sounds great. So Elias, now who's been gone for a while, I don't know, comes back and is like, she tells him the whole truth of like, I'm a 5,000-year-old princess. He's like, great. Okay. Like,
I'm fairy. Believe it or not, that was more believable than your story, evidently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't worry, I got you. We're friends.
Sure.
Let's figure out how she's controlling the dragons. Because another aspect of this story that she told was how they were friends with the dragons. And that's also why Landon was like, all I have known, and that is in our history, is that dragons are evil. So, like, this is also hard to believe. So, they're trying to like figure out how to take down Eris, and then Landon and Briar are like, oh, it's been a while, let's bang again. So that leads to number 4. I hope the baby didn't feel you're not.
God. Oof.
Yeah. They make a plan. And we'll just move past that. They make a plan to go to the magic springs. And because that's where Eris's power, she's getting her power from, and they're gonna kill her for good. So the night before, Landon's like, I don't want you to come, and Briar's like, I got to. Like, this is kind of about me. I gotta go. And so he's like, okay, let's bang one more time before we go on the road, which leads to number 5, such a dirty mouth. And in parentheses, I blushed at this scene.
Oh.
It takes a lot for me to blush nowadays.
What does he do?
Just like the dirty talk that he said that he did was...
She had direct quotes.
I'm a sucker for
not comparing, but I'm just saying.
I don't have my Kindle in front of me.
I love my quotes.
Yeah, I should have. But it's a lot of like like, you're my fucking whore, like in that
dirty
sense,
talk.
like
I need
dirty
a tally
dirty
system. I see now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quotes. Yes.
Yeah.
One mark.
We're at the end, guys. So the next morning they go to the springs, and she waits outside because it's like in a cave, and they're like, we know you had to come with, and he's like, I'm really worried about you. This might be dangerous. Like, please just stay out of harm's way. She's like, totally, yeah. So she's waiting outside the mouth of the cave. Everyone else is in, and all of a sudden she hears the wings of a dragon, and she's like, holy shit! And she recognized like 3 dragons come down, and one of them is like older and red, and she goes, I know you. You're the dragon that we used to like hang out with.
Oh my God.
We used to talk to, and he kind of looks at her, and the dragons like don't speak, but they do. It's like all chuffs and like head nods. Mm-hmm. So she recognizes this dragon, and he basically tells her in his own way that Eris is not in the cave, but she is on her way.
Okay.
And so she starts running into the cave, and they're like, what are you doing? And she relays this info. Elias then tells her that he has dismantled the magic that was controlling the dragons, and that's why they came down to the mouth of the cave and helped her out. A battle then breaks out. It's 3 dragons against Eris and 1 dragon who is still like her on her side, and then all of the like soldiers in Landon and Briar. So the other dragons are like, fuck you, Eris. And they start to try and get her, but they're all battling the bad dragon, so it's 3 against 1. And then Eris turns herself into a dragon, a la Maleficent.
Right.
And is like, gonna kill you. And Landon and her start fighting. But then all this like dragon fire gets thrown out of the mouth. He gets lost in the fire. Briar is just like, well, what the fuck am I gonna do now? She's cornered in this cave. Dragon Eris is coming up to her being like, I'ma get you. And she's like, well, gotta do something. This like lance that has fallen to the ground. She picks it up as Eris like charges her, and she kind of like wounds her enough to be a distraction, because then all of a sudden Landon comes out of nowhere and like stabs her in the head. He like whoop up the tail. He werewolf walks up the tail of the dragon, stabs her in the head, and he's like, we did it.
Wow.
Amazing.
Wow. Damn.
And all is well. And so the epilogue on the next solstice.
Right.
Everyone, a very pregnant Briar, the Prince Landon, the whole fucking town comes on up. They trudge up to the caves, and they give the dragons offerings, and they make a new alliance, and everyone lives happily ever after.
Wow.
Yeah. All right.
That was very fairy tale.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I fucking stumbled upon that one. I was very excited about it.
Amazing.
So I guess I don't have this was a hard first episode to get back into with the games.
I understand.
I have the same story. A lot's been happening. We didn't even say this at the top of the episode, but we've both moved apartments. One of us is single again, as I am every season.
Hey.
Like, a lot's changed. But I think if you had to add the Omegaverse to any other fairy tale, and I want to say you can't do Beauty and the Beast.
Snow White.
Oh, that was so fast.
Snow White.
That's actually really good.
Who would okay, would it still be the prince?
No. It would be the dwarves.
You look so upset while you say that.
They all have.
Would be the dwarves.
Not all of them are alphas or omegas, though. The dwarves all have different designations, and it causes like a hierarchy, a power structure amongst them.
How is it? I hope this has been written already.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I don't honestly want Snow White to have really anything to do with it. I want it to be...
Oh, you just want dwarves and dwarves.
I want the Omegaverse politics amongst the 7 dwarves.
Can this be the prequel before Snow White?
Yes. And then she shows up, and she's the alpha that ultimately gets them all in line and in order. But before her, it's just chaos. It's just absolute chaos between them.
Chaos.
Just infighting between the dwarves.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you. What do you think?
I think maybe the Billy Goats 3. I think maybe the Billy Goats 3.
I'm gonna look up
there's a troll under the bridge, and each goat is trying to get over the bridge, and the reason I think that is because I think that would be a great reverse harem idea. I don't know why. I was like, how do I turn this into something weird and kinky? Oh, wait, that happened real quick in my brain. There it is.
I mean, there's definitely an element of that with the dwarves as well. I think we're on the same general
I think
page
that,
there.
or weirdly enough, like the old tale of Pinocchio.
Like the old school.
I'm looking up a list of fairy tales right now, and I came across that one. I go, that would be interesting.
Like Pinocchio would probably be the next one.
What would Pinocchio be?
Well, you know, he goes to the island
where the donkeys?
Yeah, the donkeys. And that made me go like, oh, yeah.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I know this is a cop-out, but I keep seeing... I've definitely read a Little Red Riding Hood Omegaverse. Like, I've had to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I like the idea of... I mean, it's basic, but of Cinderella. She's the Omega. Like, she's Desire. I think that'd be fun. Let's see. The Emperor's New Clothes. Done.
Oh,
Done.
yeah.
That's it. That's the one.
There it is.
Here's the one.
I loved the fact that there was just an evil witch fairy godmother in that, like, it's just like, oh God, aren't we all fighting our own evil fairy godmother that just pops into our lives every day? No, not just me.
Also named Eris, famously the goddess of strife, starter of the Trojan War.
There you go.
Okay.
Served the apple of discord.
Didn't know that, but I knew you would know it.
I know too much.
You know enough.
Beep boop boop beep. Okay, so out of 5 raccoons and trash cans, what would you rate each of our stories?
Wow, you guys really did get me to enjoy fairy tales. I really, really did. I would give Emily 4 raccoons and trash cans.
Good work.
It's very hard to get a 5 because it is still a trope that I sit there and go, why?
Yep. Yeah.
Like, just, it's okay. You can come up with some new ideas. But you know what? If you're gonna take from something, wow, what a good. And then you just add another thing on top of it. Very, very solid.
Yeah. I was very happy to fall into that one. That was a good one.
Absolutely.
I was just so mad at that guy. I can't believe I'm gonna have to fight a fictional character right now.
You gotta. Sometimes you gotta.
It just for me. It leads to me to like a 2.5.
Great.
And not because it was a good story. Like, you did such a good job. And man, those quotes were, I'm like, maybe it is a 3. Maybe it's a 3. Because those quotes are so
quotes
good.
Are good.
Let's see if I can quickly
well
find
written. Is the thing.
Yeah,
it was very well written.
But I have to say that when it comes to a fairy tale, especially something that we know as well as Cinderella, because we're getting a lot of retellings of Cinderella and also redos kind of. I think the problem that I had with it was that, you know, it was. How dare he not recognize her?
I know.
How dare he?
I
We
know.
live in a society today where that's just not acceptable.
I understand.
So,
but she had a mask on, you know?
Oh God. You know.
The mask.
Actually,
man.
I was talking to Jake and I was like, you know, I'm kind of scared sometimes. I'm worried that I don't know my friends' voices as well as I know the characters from The Simpsons voices.
The Simpsons ones are more distinct. In your defense.
I've grown up with these voices.
Yeah.
And like some of these friends I've only been friends with for like 10 years, I guess, you know.
I get that.
Friends with. All right. Well, you've heard it here. You heard fairy tales.
Yeah.
Very fun. Very good first episode. That was a fun one to come back to.
Excellent, you guys.
Yeah.
Really, truly.
Was there anything from this episode or something that you also thought of on your own time, trope-wise, that you would like us to do in the next episode?
Oh man. Well, I was thinking about like the evil witch. I do enjoy an evil witch, but that's an enjoyment thing. I love when they pop in there.
Oh yeah.
But I think a trope that I really, or with you guys, the one that I hate the most, the thing that actually makes most of my book club actively not want to read my suggestions, which is I hate fated mates. I just can't. Like, every time, I've never read a book.
We have done Fated
Oh,
Mates.
you guys have.
We did it at our live show.
Oh, that's right. You guys
But we
did.
could do we could do something
Fated
with
Mates.
with a caveat with a cherry on top or something if we want to put a twist on it.
Fated Mates, but not, let's say, because for our live show we did Fated Mates, but there was a creaturey element to it, right?
There was.
So
I'm remembering this now.
I think that we could do fated mates with the special spicy thing being picking a fated mates we think she would like.
Or we could just say soulmates.
Soulmates.
Rather. But yeah, if we
picking a soulmates that we think that she would like.
That could be fun.
I just want to be able to kick my feet and be like, ooh, yes. It's never happened when somebody told me, oh, it's a fated mate book. I'm like, I sit there and I'm like, drudging, man, it's hard.
Plan on episode 2, fated mates, soulmates, take 2.
Yep. Soulmates take 2.
Soulmates take 2.
I want you guys. I'm so excited. This is such a treat for me. Thank you. Thank you guys.
I'm so happy to try to convince you of something.
Yeah. Season 4, episode 2. We're gonna do Soulmates Part 2.
Soulmates Part 2.
We're just 2 raccoons
Talking about
the best
trash in town.
Goodbye.
Bye. Femmes Reading Filth is hosted, produced, and edited by Emily Barusian and Jessica Mall. Intro music by Tom Lehrer. Outro music by David Reddick. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Femmes Reading Filth. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.